Good afternoon. Sava and Kuva are back. There's Frank and Stewie in the background having a nap and not giving a single worry about Tottenham's transfer window. They don't care about Enoch or Levy. They don't care if Trossard signs, and they don't care how much profit the club has made. Kuva, we do. Big up. How you doing today, mate? You all right?
Yeah. Good, mate. It's all of the goings on at the club are a bit of a worrying mess, aren't they?
Absolutely. Look, let's get into it. So today I want to talk about things in a world where Harry Maguire is joining Aston Villa to form a formidable partnership with Tyrone Mings. In a world where Cristiano Ronaldo is paid 250 million a year to play in Qatar or whatever. In a year where Chelsea are signing everybody and anybody while not winning a single game of football, we come to Tottenham Hotspur. Kuva, I want to talk today about we're going to talk about Trossard in a bit because we've been linked with Trossard today. First of all, I want to talk about the Spurs financials. They come out once a year, as do every single company in this country. Now, conspiracy theorists will tell you, Kuva, that they're not releasing them because they are going to show that we have made world record profits for a football club north of £160 million. So the conspiracy theorists, of which I am on this bandwagon, are of the opinion, well, why would they bring them out now during a transfer window? Because that then gives them absolutely nowhere to hide when it comes to making transfers. Where are you on all this? Talk to me. Where are we?
Well, it's suspicious, isn't it? Because I remember we were having the conversation a few weeks back, weren't we, with Sean Butler when he was talking about he's waiting for the financial reports to come out, and then we started talking about, weren't they supposed to be out last week? And then it was, wasn't it supposed to come out a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
And it's going back and back and back, and then we started having the conversation. Do you think they're going to release them after January because it will save embarrassment during the transfer window? And all of a sudden, here we are. Yeah. It ties in with what we were already saying, really, doesn't it? I wouldn't put it past them at all. The club's all about PR and spin and timing of events to distract from what's really going on or what we should be focusing on. I think this is a perfect example to it.
Yeah. Just quickly, Stephanie, listen, I have what they commonly call a lunch break. I start working at 8 every morning and don't log off until about 7 at night. So if I want to give myself an hour and a half, 2 hours to stream, I will. But thank you so much for your consideration about
even simpler. Does Stephanie think everybody works the same 9 to 5 shift?
Exactly.
Jesus
a lot of my clients
Christ.
are in America, so I do a lot in the evening. None of your business. Look, Kuva. It is going to be huge profits, isn't it? I think it's well documented that we're about to make huge profits. How angry is it going to make most of the fan base if we see these 150 million plus profits and yet we're scampering around for a few loans or one player at 20 million pounds? How much do you think that's going to anger a lot of, not all, but a lot of the fan base?
Well, without doubt, there'll be some people that will justify it in any means possible. Can't do that. You've got to use it as a tactical advantage to keep the funds quiet while the transfer window's open. Yeah, there's a point to be made there. But what do we usually do? We usually announce these figures and brag about it all. When we're talking about a transfer window now, where the speculation is mostly around the believable parts for most people, where we're looking at players around the £10 million mark or loan deals or perhaps only one player coming in.
Yeah.
That you've got the other end of the other extreme end where, we're going to go for Marcus Edwards and Porro. And it's like, you look at those players and look at the physical attributes of those players. And if you know anything about what Conte likes in his teams, he likes powerful players, big, powerful players. Those two do not fit. And 75 million, when we're haggling about the price of like a £13 million player in Malinovsky, who looks like he's off to, where was it? Was he going Barcelona, was it? No, it was Marseille, wasn't it? Something like that. yeah, it just doesn't all add together. And the fact that we could be making record profits amongst all this happening is a bit hard to take for most people. It's a case it brings you back to the old quote, just have we got the money to do these transfers or not? And just go, show me the money.
Yeah,
because we want to know now. We're so there's so hard to read anything at the club. No statements from chairmen, no statements from Paratici. No idea what's going on. We're just left in the dark guessing. Are we having the Qataris coming in to invest in the club? Who knows? Perhaps you do have to keep that bit quiet, to be fair. I don't know. It's just it's cloak and dagger with almost all of it. And I just don't feel it's like this at other clubs so much. There's a degree of course, you can't show your entire hand all the time. That would be crazy. But we're just left guessing. Don't know the future of the club at all.
I think this is the key thing. By the way, big up Brian Daigle. So I've seen your WhatsApp. I've just made you a moderator. I have also made you a moderator, Phil President. I like all the Phils. Guys, I mean, you're right, Kuva. For me, I think it's the same thing I always say. When we look at other clubs and go, oh my God, look at them, they're a mess, and look what they're doing. But I feel like they do that in patches throughout the decades. I feel like we're in a constant state of that. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen a good point of basically saying, great point from Ryan McFarlane that said, Alistair Gold told Cody Mackett will be in a few days, apparently. It will piss us off no matter when it's released, as they are claiming to sell to buy as usual. Now, I agree with this in terms of whenever it's released, it's going to piss us off. But for me, Kuva, the thing is, if as a fan of a club that needs a lot of work doing to it, and let's be honest, we all know we need centre-backs. We all know we need wing-backs. Conte's talked about the need for creativity in the midfield as well, right? If you've got those issues in your club and then you are releasing financial statements that go, hey, we've made this much money, I think it's just a slap in the face to all the fans that pay, go, watch, support, buy merch, whatever banner, all the Spurs fans. I think it's a slap in the face to go, hey, look how well we're doing. But by the way, we're not going to buy the team what it needs. I think it's a massive slap in the face.
Absolutely. And then even when our reclusive chairman actually does come out and do a conference or an announcement himself, what does he go straight into? The financials. How well the club's done on the. You can see where the focus is there. There's nothing about what we're planning to do on the pitch or the future development. Nothing about the youth team structures, nothing about the transfer policies, nothing about the vision for management, nothing about what the ambitions are, what our aims are for the season. It's always to be competitive, stock phrase, and then the rest of it swept under the carpet. It's infuriating. God, this club makes you. All right, I'll avoid saying it, but it just makes you angry all the time. The more you look at it, the worse you think it's run. It's just a business with this sort of barely relevant sideshow of football going on at the same time.
It really does feel like that, doesn't it? I mean,
we could literally shut the football side down of it, and they'd do fine just doing concerts and things.
Yeah, I mean, look, the key thing is whichever way. Look, I don't want to sit here and try and pretend to be a financial expert. And there's a lot that goes into it. And when the club makes a profit, obviously it's got to pay other things as well. But I think the key thing is they're talking about world record profits, Kuva, in a time where you hear things out of the club like there will be a 30 million budget and we have to sell to buy. All of these stock phrases. We must move on. An Ndombele before we can bring anyone in. It just screams to me that they're very calculated. They know what they're doing. They know how to work the PR machine. But my worry through all of this, Kuva, is for every fan like me and you that gets frustrated by this, like you said, there will be fans. The moment that is released, let's assume it's February, March, whenever it's released, praising Daniel Levy, like, look how well they run this club. Now, from a financial aspect,
wait, no, got to add to that as well. not just look how well they run this club in terms of securing its financial status, and the stability of the club, but look how well they're doing it and using it as an excuse, despite not winning anything. Like that's something to be proud of.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
What are they actually supporting when they follow this club? Is it like a financial junkie sort of thing? Look at the spreadsheets, look at the profit columns. This is awesome. I want in on this. When they're looking at Spurs results, do they go to the back pages of the Financial Times first?
I just don't know. It's just, I don't begrudge anyone making money in life, Kuva. I don't. Right? I go to work. Why do I do it? I do it to make money, to pay for my mortgage, to take the wife out, to buy things, to pay for these two to eat and stuff. Do you know what I mean? But there's surely got to be a responsibility to the football side of a football club. And that is the biggest detriment to me in terms of what they do. I mean, I want to talk, we'll come back to this in a little bit, but even then when you look at the noises coming at the club from the manager that seem to be completely contrasted with what we're actually doing. And what I mean by that is you've got Conte coming out saying, and I'm not blaming him for this, but Conte comes out and says, oh, the club want, their vision is younger players on lesser salaries. And yet we know that the bid we've made was a loan bid for Malinowski, who was 29. And now they're talking about, there's rumours that we've had a 20-odd million pound bid rejected this window, just in the last 48 hours for Trossard of Brighton, who, if I'm not wrong, Trossard is a very good player, but Trossard, hang on, I'm just going to find him.
He's about 20, 29, something like that, is he?
He's 28 years of age. So again, it's like, even the noises coming out from the owner to the manager to the none of it actually aligns to anything we see. Let's talk about Trossard. I like Trossard as a footballer. I think he'd be a wonderful addition. But again, Coover, it begs the question: is that buying what we need? Where does he fit in? Like, does he walk in immediately and start?
Instead of hope, no, he doesn't.
Right.
No, that's simple as that. It's buying yet another squad rotation player at best.
Right.
When we've got gaping deficiencies in other places, spots in the team, it's ludicrous. Although, we've got to say, have we got enough forwards anyway when we can't bring on any subs in the last few games and we're relying on Hill, Kane and Hill, Kane and Sonny, to fill those front three roles, even having to play one of them out of a natural position for them, because Hill would love to be on the left. That's what he's said he always is as a left winger. So there's the argument that we do need these extra players up front to fill out the squad, but surely you start in the ones where you're going to improve your first team to start with, improve our first 11. We just don't do that. It's just bullshit. So the transfer strategy at the club's absolutely jaw-droppingly bad. I have no idea what they're doing. Do they?
I mean, this is the key thing. As I'll state this again for anyone that's confused. I like Trossard. I think Trossard's a very good footballer. I look at it and I go, okay, right now you've got Kane, Son, and Hill. Right, in the next 3 or 4 weeks, or the next 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to have both Richarlison and Kulusevski back. Right, that's 5 of them. Trossard will make 6 in that area. So what that tells me is that whilst we're going to have bad centre-backs and bad wing-backs, we're going to have 3 attacking options on the bench rather than dealing with the problem areas. And I get it. If you're Man City, go and buy as many forwards as you want. You're not worried about your defence. You're cool. But I just don't see, again, what is the plan? Even Trossard, why are we not blind? Why is it not a playmaker if that's what we want? Why is it not someone that plays in the hole? I feel like there's no plan. It's just whoever becomes available, it feels.
Also, if you look at what we just mentioned earlier, you look at Conte's preferred style of player in some certain positions. He likes big, powerful players, really great athletes. Trossard, I believe, is 5'6".
He's a very slight player.
Yeah, he doesn't fit that again, does he? So I think for me, it's just another smokescreen bit of bullshit. Whether it was prompted by the club to put out the information or not, I don't care. I just don't believe it. I don't think that's a player we're at any point even attempting to go for.
Yeah. It's strange, isn't it? I mean, listen, if they go and sign a top centre-back and they bring in Trossard, you go, cool, all right, cool. But what I don't want to see is we get to the end of this window and fans are going, there you go, we did invest, we bought Trossard. I just don't understand. I'm so confused. Whenever I watch Brighton, he's part of that front three, right? He's part of whichever way you look at it. And let's be fair. I think the rumour was we're trying to get him on loan as well. We're not even trying to sign him permanently.
Well, why would Brighton do that?
I mean, yeah, it depends what you look at, right? I'd love to know if this is true. Look, it could just be all smoke and mirrors as always with Tottenham Hotspur. But why at no point are we seeing any names that we're linked with? Not one seems to be a centre half. Not one seems to be a right wing back. And the Porro links, sorry, if they'd want Porro, it's not a difficult deal to do, Kuva. If they had wanted Porro, 1st of January, 45 million buyout clause, done. But we haven't. We've got to the 9th. And now people are saying Barca have bid for him. Chelsea have bid for him. And if they have, that's wrapped up in 24 hours, don't you? It's not
yeah, of course, absolutely.
It's not going to be will they, won't they? It will be 45 million. Yeah, we'll do that. So when are we going to see these links? When are we going to be linked to a centre back, to a right wing back? When are we going to? What's happening?
No idea. It's. I think all of the transfer rumours, as far as I'm concerned, just ignore all of them. We could end up with any player from any league. It could be somebody we've never heard of. Might be a Danny Rose endorsed signing where you have to Google it. If it's going to cost money, I don't see us doing it. I mean, I suppose the other thought with this whole thing was in line with the talk about investors coming into the club. The other line of thought I've had was: is it beneficial to keep that money back to show? Here's the record profits for the season. To buff up the estimated value of the club by showing liquid cash available and the financial stability of it without taking all the big risks on players for another window. Then secure your backing, or maybe even selling. Who knows? We just don't know. It's all guesswork, isn't it? It's just unbelievable. Trossard just makes no sense to me, same as most of the other things we're linked with. Porro and Marcus Edwards as well, no chance.
Absolutely.
Why would we?
I mean, Claude Murphy is Levy in, not even spelling his name right, but he's Levy in. Look, listen, if people want Levy in, that's cool. But I also think if you want Levy in, you can't ever complain the fact that we don't win trophies. It goes hand in hand.
Probably doesn't.
Yeah, no, that's true. Claude, tell us, do you want to win trophies? And for me, 22 years is evidence enough that they don't really care. What I would say, Brian Davis just sent me something. Daily Hotspur said, news just in, Tottenham have had a verbal offer for Leandro Trossard rejected by Brighton. I think the key word there is verbal.
Yeah.
It's a verbal offer. The
same bullshit as ever. Well, there's nothing concrete. We've been talking about this in so many streams, haven't we, mate? That we would love to see even if it just comes out from other clubs, a bid has been rejected from Tottenham Hotspur.
Tottenham Hotspur, yeah.
But it doesn't. Yeah. It's like there's rumours of it happening, or so and such as turned down the offer, we hear, or something like that. It's absolutely nothing concrete at all. Bastoni, that fabled player that we're going to get. Well, about they turned down an £80 million bid from Spurs.
Yeah,
so, I mean, I'll be okay if that happened. I'd say fair enough. We have actually put in bids. That there's a serious interest in it. But to just say we are interested in it and then no bid ever materialises, what's the point? That is just pulling the wool over a fan's eyes. And I think the majority of people are now sick of it. Even the people that used to be very sort of conflicted with us who were saying Levy out. Even those people, I see a lot of them are saying the same thing now, like enough's enough. We've got to change something. They might not be quite as vehement as we are and outspoken about Levy out, but I can imagine there's an awful lot of them that will be saying at least Levy change or do something different at the top. People are just disillusioned with this club. It's just not fun anymore.
It's not. The fun has gone. It's not fun to watch. It's not fun when we make transfers. It's not fun the way we approach cup competitions now. Like, if you look, it wasn't fun against Portsmouth. It was crap against Nottingham Forest getting knocked out. Crap against Middlesbrough last year getting knocked out. Where does the fun come from? As a football fan now of Spurs, when do you get excited? Where's the enthusiasm?
There's literally only two things. It's just look at the goal highlights because the rest of the game's been crap. So we'll get a little passage of play, maybe half an hour of a game on a lot of them. There's half an hour of our play worth watching. We might score, we might not. So for me, I'm not too bothered if I miss games now. I'll just look at the highlights. It saves a lot of my day. And if I really want to enjoy the football, I'll go and watch somebody else.
It's sad when it comes to that, isn't it? Not going to go at you. I'm saying it. You know, I was one of those where, you know, if Spurs were playing on a Saturday, the evening kickoff 5:30, but all the boys were meeting at the pub, I'd be like, boys, I'll meet you after the game. I'm not missing this for love nor money. I'm now at the stage where if that was the offer, I'd go, do you know what? I'll just find out the score. And that's a terrible place to be as a fan. Part of that is, most of that is down to how the club have worked. Part of that for me is the way Antonio Conte plays football. Part of that is that I know that the transfers are always going to be below average. But what will happen, Kuvi, you know, and I know this, that whoever we bring in, no matter how average they are, there will be a section of the fan base that will come out with this comment. Right? This is eat, sleep, and repeat. If Conte wants him, I want him. Right? This is what I heard all summer. Then, when that player doesn't play, or when that player doesn't do well, it'll be he's not being backed. Those fans are the ones that crack me up. You know what I mean? That makes me.
I just love the way there's no critical thinking applied to it. When we saw quite clearly Conte saying Jed Spence is a club signing, for most of us, you start thinking, I wonder how many others weren't. But for the selection of fans will go, oh, well, they were all Conte signings except Jed Spence. Yeah. It's like, try and have a little bit of common sense with it.
Yeah.
If one bit's been proven right, you can, the bits you've not actually told bluntly, this is true, this has happened. Just apply what's happened on the bits you do know for sure.
Yeah, logic.
Yeah, it's strange how that works, isn't it?
I think it's just, for me, it's just a lot of flip-flopping from listen, I get it, right? There are some people, they just want to think, all right, okay, if Conte wants someone, I want them. I like to think I'm an adult. I don't have to go along that route. Even if Conte did want XYZ player and I didn't like them, I don't have to turn around and go, oh, I love them because Conte loves them. You accept that they're at a club because the manager bought them, but you're still allowed an opinion on whether or not you think they're going to be a good addition. I.e., when I look at Richarlison, everyone seems to have a different view on Richarlison. And you know how you know when you haven't made a quality signing, right? The word quality is because the fan base is so split on it. For example, when Man United signed Casemiro, everyone's sitting there now going, quality signing. There's no, I don't know if I'd play Casemiro. Do you know what I mean? Play, done. We buy these players like Richarlison where, again, it's not about you might like him, I might not, where it's, oh, I really like him. No, he doesn't do anything for me. Oh, but he did well in a shit Everton team. Yeah, he just needs to get used to play. All of that's where we are with every signing. It seems to be hardly any that we all go.
In his case, especially, I like Richarlison. I like his work rate. I like his dogged determination and upsetting the opposition and sticking his head in where it hurts sometimes and roughing up opposition. I love all of that. But the other side of the coin is, how do I see him going in the first team? Do I see him going in the first team? No.
Right. That's the bigger issue.
Yeah.
Whether we like him or not, Kuva, that's the bigger issue. You've signed. Do you remember? Just quickly, let me read this super chat. Thank you to James Mbappe. Lovely name, if that is. I said Arsenal will beat Spurs 6-1. The final nail in the coffin. I would sit here and say no chance, but I do really worry about our back four. I can't see it being 6-1, James.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about the one.
I mean, I would think that if it did end 6-1, I can only imagine the fallout on Sunday night from fans. But listen, thank you for that, James. Kuva, this is the thing for me. Forget if look, I don't particularly rate him. You think he's good. That's fine. We can have a different opinion on that.
Yeah.
I think where we both meet in the middle is, all right, you spent most of your budget on this guy to not play him in his preferred position. Right. That is where I go.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, when people will say this is the argument I don't get. We've called out for a backup striker for years. Yes, but the word backup or rotation would suggest that you're not buying Brazil's centre forward to play him out of position. For me, that would be a 20-year-old striker, a 21-year-old striker.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I would perceive that to be. Go and buy someone for 10, 15 million. That's where your scouting comes into it. Yeah, get them in, knowing that they're going to be happy to sit behind Harry Kane for a little bit, knowing that they'll play when there's injuries and play in League Cups and FA Cups. But you don't go and buy Richarlison at 50 to 60 million with add-ons and then play him wide right and wide left. You just don't, do you?
No, I mean, it's so ludicrous that you can even say things like, computer games like Football Manager. You can literally go in and set your search parameters for different things on players, generate a list of players that fit a position, things like that. It's really basic stuff. All that is basically a database that's going to be similar to the sort of databases clubs will have on players. You're going to have all these sort of things addressed and things like that. So when people say, "Oh yeah, don't go and play," it's not Football Manager, Football Manager's got a lot of actual realism to parts of it. Forget the game part of it, but the actual scouting and things like that. There's a lot of details and things that should be talked about and looked at. But of course, when it comes to real life, you've got proper scouts and you've got proper people that know what they're talking about, or you're supposed to. And if you're going out to say you want a versatile player to cover the front three, you get a versatile player to cover the front three. Not somebody who plays centre forward and has played on the left and then expect them to play on the right.
This was the thing, Kuva. This was the big thing for people in the transfer window were, listen, Richarlison makes so much sense because he can cover all three positions. But then this is what I hate, the flip-flopping from fans. Then all of a sudden it's, oh, well, he's not scored goals and he doesn't look as good as we thought because he's being played out of position. Well, which one is it? Does he play in all three positions or not? Because if you need a centre-back, if you need a playmaker, if you need a right wing-back and a left wing-back, and your biggest signing of the summer was a bloke that is going to sit on the bench behind Kane, Son and Kulusevski, it just screams again of that thing we talk about, what's the roadmap? And to be fair, I watched the Spurs corner last night and I thought Will was spot on with what he said. He was absolutely spot on. He said the CEO gets a plan and a vision. The CEO doesn't even have to be an expert in the field he works in. The CEO is an expert in business, right? Mm-hmm. He hires the people around him and sets the strategy of, hey, I'm the CEO. This is my vision for the club, but you've got the know-how. Go and make this happen. But he's not done any of that.
Sounds so simple, doesn't it?
But it is. In theory, it is.
Yeah, that's it.
And Stel had a really good analogy when he turned around and said Steve Jobs. Or was it Will might have said? One of them said it and said Steve Jobs wasn't a tech geek. He wasn't the guy that wrote code and program. He wasn't the mastermind. He was the idea guy. And he had Steve Wozniacki, who was the, hang on, I'm clever. I'll do all these bits for you. Right?
But Steve Jobs did have the basic understanding of what's possible.
Oh, for sure,
and what he wanted. That's it. There's vision. That apply that to Levy. Basic understanding of what's possible and what we could be doing. Yeah. Would you say that is applicable to Levy when it comes to football? I don't think anybody would they?
No, absolutely. Just quickly, Super Tommy Tuchel, big up. He's a Chelsea fan, but he's always in the chat, and everyone should know by now. I welcome fans from every club into my chat. I think it's what makes the world go round, and it means we stop living in echo chambers. Do I think you should sack Potter? I absolutely don't. I think I think this new owner is going to try and do things differently to your old owner. I think he acknowledges the fact that he's buying a lot of young players. The fact that he got rid of Tuchel in the first place, I think he acknowledges that the club is not going to do anything this year. And again, I might be wrong on this, but I think he's got the foresight of that. I think if you would carry this form into next year, or if you really drop down the table, yes. But I think once you get your players back, I think Potter will settle. I think he's a good manager. He's proven that. He just needs a bit of time. That is where I'm at with Chelsea. Hoover?
Yeah, I agree. I think the Abramovich days are gone.
Yeah.
Surely, what I'm seeing is the man coming in, the man coming in spending all the money, is saying this is a long-term project. We're going to get a manager in that does take several seasons to get things together. This is the key bit. It's going to be seasons. Now, he's going to throw the players out. I mean, he's not going to expect instant results.
Right.
The question is, will the fans tolerate that? And it seems no, because whether they admit it or not, they are now conditioned to win trophies or sack manager. That's the Abramovich era. When you get used to that, you see it all the time. So the patience levels for fans has gone down. The expectations remain sky high, but the reality is the new owners, from my point of view, is looking at a much longer game and setting a sort of what I want at Spurs, are basically a long-term vision of how to play the game and the ethos and culture of everything at the club. You can't do that in the space of a few months while 260 players come in at the same time.
Absolutely. I think if you look at the ethos as well of what they're doing, that nearly every other day it's Chelsea signed 17-year-old this, 18-year-old this, 19-year-old this. I think again it's like at Spurs but completely different. And what I mean by that is it's the manager's vision and the owner's vision versus the fans' vision there, because they've had so much success. The fans' vision is we should be winning every year. And I get that. I like that mentality. But I think you've been going by you, and last thing I'll say on Chelsea, I think you fans, Tommy Tuchel, you've had it so good that there's going to be dips. You've had a dip before where you finished 10th or 8th, whatever, and then you won the league the next year. The difference at Spurs is the vision's the complete other way round, is that the owner's vision isn't to win anything ever, and that the fans' vision, most of them, is unfortunately aligned that we don't want trophies. Not all of us. I think it's growing. But look, I wouldn't be too worried about Chelsea if I was you. Fans have to realise football isn't just about one season. Yeah? It's not about one season. You've got Nkunku coming in. You bought Fofana from Leicester, who's a brilliant young defender that's hardly played for you. Chilwell's out. Reece James is out. Kante's out. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is... You've got so much going wrong. If you sacked Potter, whatever guy comes in next week to take the job is picking up a club with brand new players, brand new technical director of football, brand new owner, loads of kids, loads of injuries. I don't know what it would achieve. David, good point. It says Spurs bought a quality striker in Soldado. And what did the coach do? He played inverted wingers who never got down the line putting crosses in. So Soldado's heading ability and volleys, no, they cut inside. David, Kuva, let me bring you in on this. For me, at the time, I was adamant of being a Soldado defender because I watch a lot of Spanish league. I always did growing up because I loved watching the Barcelona teams, with Edgar Davids and Rivaldo and, the likes. Whenever I watched Soldado, he was just a lethal finisher that was your typical front man that played off of a big man. Right? He played in a 4-4-2. They got crosses in. A bloke would knock it down, and we brought him into Spurs, played him up front on his own, and then wondered why his hold-up play wasn't amazing, wondered why he didn't run the channels well, why his link-up wasn't great. And again, it's another example, wasn't it, of if you buy a player that doesn't suit what the manager actually wants, it's going to fail.
Absolutely. Soldado's, it's a good example. Completely different style of play. Like I said, 4-4-2. He played with a strike partner. He's now looking at having to change his game to become a target man instead of a poacher. He's the finishing touch player. He's the one that just gets in the right position.
He's a Defoe.
Old enough to remember Gary Lineker, that sort of player.
He's a Defoe in the Crouch Defoe partnership.
There we go. Yeah, right? Yeah. Same thing.
He's not the guy you fire into. He's going to hold it up, link up, turn, go. He's a finisher. I don't know.
Yeah, and the deft little touches at the edge of the box while working your way through on a very narrow sort of team, which we were. It was dreadful signing. Good player, dreadful signing. We ruined him.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve Deere said the same people wanting to give Conte time are also saying Potter will be out of a job and he's garbage after 5 minutes. I agree with this. I agree with this. Listen, Chelsea have got a lot of issues. You know, it happens. Clubs go through changes. Yeah. And the fact that I think for the last sort of the second half of last season, when the whole Abramovich stuff was going on, and then the first sort of 7-8 games of this season when he was there, Tuchel, you could see something wasn't right. I was on with Goonie, who's a Chelsea fan. I was on a show with him on Friday night, and what he said was, he said that they've got what we've got, where there's some legacy players that are still there that are actually the poison at the club. Now, obviously, I don't know enough about Chelsea to say this, but he was saying the likes of Jorginho, Kovacic, Azpilicueta, you know, that they're there. It doesn't matter how bad they play; they're always in. But my brother-in-law's Chelsea fan last night. He said to me that look how many young players Potter is given a game to. Look, he's trying to work out who he's got, who hasn't, who's any good. Yeah, who does he want to keep? And he said to me last night, you've got to remember as well, this next summer, Chelsea are going to lose Jorginho, Thiago Silva, Azpilicueta, Aubameyang, Kante, Kovacic. So there's a real change of the guard going on. But the thing is, our fans just going, oh, Potter's crap. He's had 4 months, get rid of him. I don't think that's fair on any manager. I really don't.
Especially the way they're doing their business. It's like sudden influx of loads of players. Some of these, well, I'd imagine almost all of these players, if not all, aren't Potter's signings. He's just dealing with what's being supplied to him. So he's got the whole load of new faces coming into a club where he's only just getting to learn the new faces he's working with. Yeah, it's an impossible situation. I don't see any manager coping with that. It's going to be messy for a long time, but it's a question of patience, isn't it? The fans clearly have had enough already. I think the owners have got the patience for a longer term build if they're prepared to put the money in. I think the worry is that they do keep Potter, because I think he'll turn that team into that club into something very solid indeed. But he is a project manager. Chelsea fans don't have time for that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's look, at the end of the day, look, I don't want to talk about Chelsea too much, but at the end of the day, they're doing what I've said I want at Spurs. I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't back Potter for this occasion, because I've asked for that, right? In the space of 6 months, they've got a new owner, a new technical director of football, and a manager that all appear to be on the same wavelength, right? That is more powerful than Abramovich just going, manager, you've had 10 games, sacked. That was successful, but that was when it was just buy the top players. What they're doing at the moment is they seem to be buying a lot of younger footballers.
And they've got a very strong academy that is producing viable players for the first team.
Absolutely.
Their setup's good. They're in a reconstruction phase at the moment. If I was a Chelsea fan, I would be gritting my teeth and not enjoying the football. Of course I would. They're getting hammered a few times, but you look at the longer picture, the bigger picture. I think they've got a really exciting project on the horizon now.
Do you know the thing is though? This is our knee-jerk football fans. Like when we say here, like Potter overhyped. I mean, he's done a wonderful job wherever he's managed. Right? He's come into a club that's got a lot of issues, yeah, and people straight away after 3 months want to judge. Look at if Potter's done a terrible job, right? If we're going to say this, that means any manager that comes into any club in 3 months, we're going to go sack. There'll never ever be anyone given any time anywhere to
absolutely
build.
Look at Eddie. Look at Eddie Howe at Newcastle. He didn't come in and then the first thing that happened was like 12 players come through the door and he's supposed to gel a team together. He struggled at first, getting to know the squad he's already got, started developing them. They looked more coherent then, started getting some results together, going up the table steadily. Still not great because they were lacking the quality. And then they just slowly started adding in the players in positions they needed. And look at them now. And this is also a manager, Eddie Howe. I heard exactly the same things said about him. Oh, who's he? He's just a nothing manager. He's only at Bournemouth. What have they done? It's Bournemouth. It's Bournemouth. It's Brighton. They're on tiny little budgets.
Yeah, what are they meant to do?
Remarkable what they've done.
Yeah.
Just Eddie Howe, just keeping Bournemouth in the league, in the top division all those years was miraculous.
Yeah,
it's great management.
But again,
people can't understand that you can take somebody at a lower down level with the talent, put them higher up, and they will achieve more.
But the thing is, it's like, like Yusuf is a Liverpool fan, but I feel like fans don't learn. Football fans never learn. It's the most knee-jerk business in the world. It's like Chelsea's glory days are over. I mean, all right. First of all, slow down. Right, slow down. We've seen Chelsea do this before. We've seen them fall away, and then we see them come back. Right? I heard at the beginning of the season, Liverpool's glory days are over. What? Because they've had one season where it's not been first or second. Oh no, they're sixth, tucked in behind us. Man United in the summer. Kuva, everyone who came on our shows, what do they say about Man United? They're no threat to us for top four. Do you remember? No threat. Years off of that. Arsenal, crap manager. Their players are crap. They're no threat to us for top four. Fans don't learn. We just say whatever comes into our head about a club because of a 4, 5, 6 game run rather than bigger picture. If I was Chelsea, I'd be looking at this right now going, okay, I've got Nkunku coming in. Right? Got Nkunku coming next year, who's a brilliant player. Right? When I get Fofana fit, right? When I get Badashili into my team, when I get Koulibaly and them in my back three, when I've got Reece James as my wing back, Ben Chilwell as my left wing back, right? When I buy Enzo Fernandez or whatever, Jude Bellingham, whatever centre mid they want to buy, when we get Nkunku up front, all of a sudden it starts to look very, very different. But football fans don't like to look at external factors.
Yeah, of course.
They do not like to look at external factors. So, fuck it, it's my channel. I can talk about what I want. So, if we look at Chelsea yesterday, right? Let's have a look. 1 second, mate.
Meanwhile, I can just say about we've said it before, but some of the signings that are made elsewhere, we'll have fans and Chelsea fans will do it as well. He's a nobody. He's just somebody at the foot of the table or lower division. And then you look at some of those examples of players that were when they got signed. Virgil van Dijk, Southampton were bottom of the table when Liverpool signed him.
Yeah.
Does it mean he was a bad player? I think most people would say probably not.
Right.
Yeah, so it's all relative to what's happening around the player or the manager at the time. If you've got no appreciation for circumstances, then you're going to miss out on a lot of stuff that's happening.
So if you look at this Chelsea situation, if you look at their league game against Man City, right? Their league game against Man City, they had 7 first-team starters missing. We're not talking squad. 7 first-team players missing. Imagine Spurs had 7. Look at us without Bentancur and Kulu, and fans lose their minds. Now imagine losing 7. Now imagine you've lost Kane, Son, Kulu, Bentancur, Romero, Perisic and Lloris all at once. Right? We'd be lower down than Chelsea are now. They had Chilwell, Fofana, James, Kante, Mount, Mendy, Loftus-Cheek, Aubameyang all missing. That's a lot of players. So I'm not sitting here defending Chelsea. I don't care. I don't support Chelsea. Right? But be careful what we say. Be careful what we say. We mug these teams off. We belittle them. And our fans have already looked silly this year because of Man United and Arsenal and Newcastle. 3 teams, I was told, we will definitely finish above. I'm not saying we can't, but we will definitely finish above, and they're nowhere near as good as us. Yeah?
Yep.
Be careful.
It's the way it goes, isn't it? I must admit, I was wrong with Man United because I didn't think they'd be able to sustain a top 4 challenge. I thought they'd have too much work to do as well, but it turns out Ten Hag is the manager I thought he was when he was in the Eredivisie. I didn't think he was. I thought he was going to struggle when he came over here, and at first he's shying away from the press and everything. I thought that will kill him at Man United. You can't do that, but he's turned it around pretty well so far. Few more players added to that, they're going to be a real force again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just quickly, while we're talking about other clubs in the Premier League, I mean, what do you make, and what does everyone in the chat make? The rumours are in overdrive. Apparently, it's edging closer to being done. Harry Maguire to Aston Villa. Who is this a good move for? Villa, Man United, the player? What do you make of this? This is an interesting one for me.
I think it's good all round.
Yeah,
he's clearly not fitting in at United. They're the one that benefits most instantly because they already know that he's not fitting in well. Villa obviously seem to need that kind of strong leadership type player at the back there. That's what you'd get Maguire for. He is a big lad. He does win his fair share of headers. Well, more than his fair share, doesn't he? So if they're strengthening with that kind of sorry,
I hate it when people get Mikel's one of those who doesn't ever listen. He changes the argument.
Yeah.
Mikel, my point was at no point have Spurs had 7 first-team players missing. At no point. I keep hearing about these deep injuries we've got. As far as I can see, it's only Bentancur and Kulu for the first 11. I don't know who we're missing other than that at the moment. Richarlison's not. Let's be fair. When the others are fit, Richarlison's not in your best 11. So Bentancur, Kulu. Who else is missing? When Richarlison was fit because Kulusevski was out, was only Kulusevski missing. Son missed a few games. I'm not seeing anywhere near the injuries that I just showed up there for Chelsea. So again, anyway, sorry, go on, mate.
Big difference between all those first team members missing and us having a poor squad, which is what we did.
True. Very true. Very true.
Anyway, Maguire, Villa. Villa are starting to show some ambition. Whether that is the right move for them in the long run remains to be seen. Of course, it's always a gamble on any player. You don't know if they're going to settle in your team. You don't know if they're going to maintain any form or refine form. You're hoping they will. What is for sure is they are looking to build that defence around him. You don't go for a Maguire unless you're doing that. He's got too much value on him, and too much. You'd assume the wages will be high as well. So he's going to be a first team starter, and he is captain material. Mm-hmm. Can they get the best out of him? Don't know. I'm not a great fan of Mings, but I was at one point. I thought he did really well a while ago.
He dropped off massively for me.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Perhaps that's part of the reckoning. Get some of the workload off Mings, and perhaps he'll start to flourish as well.
Yeah,
it sometimes works like that. It's all about partnerships at the back, isn't it? So,
well, I was talking to Henry about this yesterday, and obviously Henry's a huge Unai Emery fan. For those who didn't know, I think we all know. And I said, well, for me, this looks like he'll have to go to a free. I can't believe that Mings and Maguire have got enough pace and savviness to play a 2. I can see, though, that Maguire would be good for them in the middle of a free with Mings one side and I can't remember the name of the guy. I think he might be injured. They bought from Seville.
Yeah. Can't even remember the day of the week. Don't ask me.
Right. Okay. So fair enough. Again, Mikel, I'll say it again. Again, you've picked two players there that aren't in the first 11. That's the point. You can't really use Moura in your argument when Lucas Moura doesn't play, and Richarlison, when they're all fit, doesn't play. So anyway, Diego Carlos is who I was looking for. The only way I can see it working is that Villa go to a back three, have Matty Cash as one wing back, Luca Digne as the other, a tight midfield three of John McGinn, Luis, and then a Buendia as your attacking player in there, and then a front two of Bailey and Ings, or Bailey and Watkins. But listen, will it work? Could it? Listen, we've seen it before, right? Sometimes players need a new start. They need a fresh way of playing, a new manager, a new voice. Could this be a good move for Maguire? Of course it could, right? It could be.
Yeah, absolutely. How many players are Villa short from having a good team? Possibly. Yeah, open to interpretation, I'd say. Put it this way: if they had a Harry Kane to go alongside Ollie Watkins up front, what a difference that team would be.
For sure. We've said this many times, Kuva. How many teams in this league? How many teams? This is the thing. We can talk about managers and how great they are, etc. Swap Brighton's 8 behind the front three and stick Kane, Son and Kulusevski in their front three.
There you go.
Spurs and Brighton swap places in the Premier League. That is what happens when you've got goal scorers. And this is why, I disagreed with this yesterday with Danny Kiriakou, and I always disagree with Will and Stel when they say this as well. Like I always say, apparently you can't play good football if your defence is bad. So, well, Leeds still try and play football. And they're like, where are they in the league? Well, of course, because Leeds don't have goal scorers. Leeds won't have two blokes that score 50 between them year in, year out. And that, for me, can be the difference between, that could be the difference between 5, 6, 7 places in the league. If you don't score goals, you don't win games.
It's the obvious thing. Just look at the difference between how a team plays with a defensive-minded manager, say a Conte, and then somebody like a Gasparini or something comes in, or a Bielsa. The Bielsa's probably a better bet. And then you compare them 1 week to the next and say, is this exactly the same because the squad dictates how they play? No, of course it isn't. The squad is a reflection of the manager. If you can't, the team's a reflection of the manager. So it might not happen overnight, but it will be very quickly. You'll start seeing traits of what that manager wants from the team. And if you're not, it's because it's not a priority for that manager.
Yeah.
Conte himself said he's not all about exciting football. He's about control. And it's better he preferred to see like the comfortable 2-0 win than these exciting, 4-3 games. He doesn't buy into all that.
Let me just quickly do a shameless plug. Seen as this is Jacob, right? United Spurs of America. Jacob, big up, my man. Yes, we are still taking panelists for the charity stream. So just to shamelessly plug, for anyone who didn't know, this Friday night from 9 p.m. through to Saturday night at 9 p.m, we are doing a Savatalks Football Channel charity stream. I'm sure Cooper will spend many of the hours with me for sure. This will be a stream about anything and everything. We can talk about whatever we would like. Spurs, football, films, it doesn't matter. The whole point of the stream is to raise money for the British Heart Foundation. Unfortunately, it's been close to my heart, no pun intended. I lost both parents to heart-related issues. So I want to try and do something to give a little back. All money, whether it's super chats, whether it's the Just Giving link that I'm going to put in a minute, all the money, none of it goes to me. This is not for me. I must make that clear. This all goes to the British Heart Foundation. We will have quizzes. Bob Spur's going to do a wanky wank. We're going to have guess the player. Who am I? Shirt giveaways. Anyone is welcome on for however long they like. So the link will be in the chat all for the whole stream. So please join me from Friday night onwards. On the Saturday, we'll have a couple of hours that are dedicated to looking at the Spurs Arsenal game the next day. There's going to be Premier League games on. We'll do the results coming in. So it's going to be a really long stream, and I'm really not sure how I'm going to stay awake for 24 hours, but we're going to give it a go. So I'm putting the link in right now. If anyone wants to donate anything, you don't have to do it today. If you wanted to donate on Friday, please do. There's money in there already, but we're trying to raise $5,000. There's the link. And yeah, sorry, I needed to do that shameless plug there, Coover.
Oh, no, it's good stuff. Great stuff. Very much into this.
Yeah, look, I've always been a believer in that, right? It's the same as you could take most teams, right? You put a goal scorer into most teams.
Yeah.
The points difference at the end of the season is huge. And we are a case in point in that. We do not play good football, but Kane rescues us out of games where if we didn't have a Harry Kane, we wouldn't win.
That's literally the argument they hear recently. We'd be, somebody sent it in the stream today. I don't know if they do the other part of this argument that I've got the issue with, but when they say without Sonny and Kane in the team, we'll finish like 15th or something, or whatever it was. Yeah, okay. Even if I accept that, I think that's probably a bit too low. But even if it was, you then can't say that the likes of Brighton and Leeds, their way of playing football is rubbish when they don't have those players. Because if you did give them those players and they still played the same way, they'll be way higher in the league. So you can't use that argument consistently. It's to do with the quality of players in a lot of the cases at the end of the day. No matter what style of football you play, if the quality level is low, you're not going to get as much out of the team.
Of course. And Mikhail, I agree with you. Of course. Swap our back line with Man City. Of course. That's the nature of it, though. But this is the thing. That's why when I hear the argument, oh, well, would we want to play like Leeds? We're above them in the league. Well, why can't we play like Leeds and score goals with our strikers? I'm not saying Leeds the be all and end all. Please don't get too hung up on the Leeds thing. But they try and play. And the big thing for me is look at all of our managers, the way they've played, Coover. I would argue that the last three managers we've played don't attempt to ever play that way anyway. What would a De Zerbi do? If De Zerbi took over Spurs right now, what would he try and implement at Spurs? It wouldn't be what we're watching now. I can tell you that.
I prefer to go to think about a Bielsa or somebody like that because we've
sure go Bielsa if you want.
He's out of contract. It makes he's not working anywhere at the moment. If I don't think, which would actually make him a viable target if we do and get rid of Conte anytime soon. But what would he do? He'd come straight in and shake the team up and saying, right, forget this low block sitting back there. I want you on your front foot. Game played in the opponent's half. Do not give them a breath of air. You hang them down constantly, mess it up, destroy their game, throw bodies forward, get into attacking positions, and look to hurt them after every time they make a single mistake. Now, that's nothing like what Conte does.
So, have you seen the link to my Just Giving page has got your name in it?
Has it?
It's got Couve in it. You can't write it, Ben. You can't write it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? And this for me has always been about, okay, what's the succession at this club? Because Kane and Son, I don't think people, not so much this season, Son, but for years, I don't think enough fans realise just how much those two paper over. I think they've papered over a multitude of sins for years and years and years at this football club. Now imagine you didn't have either of them for a year. What would you do? You'd be relying on Richarlison, who, okay, we could say he scores goals for Brazil. I would argue, look at the players he's playing with, creating for him at Brazil. It's all food for thought, right? It's things that we'll never know. We'll never know the answer to this question, right? But it is what it is.
Although you'd have some hope because there'd be the likes of Kulusevski there if it was a, he can do things. I just think he's a magical sort of player. You could, if you cope with it, or compensate with it with flying wing backs with attacking intent, and those sort of box to box midfielders that will throw themselves in as well. You can play without it. You can play attacking without it as well. But I don't see the any intention of changing if we in that sort of circumstance. I think we'd end up seeing Bryan Hill up front and people raving about the fact that he didn't get knocked down on one challenge.
Bless me, mate. Do you know what? Just breaking news in the world of football. Aston Villa are close to agreeing a deal for Real Betis left back Alex Moreno for 15 million euros. He's not travelled with the rest of the Betis squad for their Saudi Arabia Spanish Super Cup game, and the move could be closed this week. Again, how are we sitting and watching teams
only
like
15 million?
15 million.
That's
I've seen him. I like him. I like him. But again, even if I'm not talking about Marino and Maguire, but straight away their managers come in, the transfer window opens, and he's identified, I want a centre back and I want a left back. And we've seen what this guy can do to make his defensive units solid. We've seen that at Villarreal. He got to Champions League semi-finals with players that were Spurs rejects, players like Etienne Capoue, Foyth, Aurier. Do you know what I mean?
Actually, is a funny comment there. Kevin McBain said, "No more Real Betis players, please. Lo Celso and Royale." Fair play.
No, I hear you, but for me, it's not about the club; it's about the scouting. Look, the thing is, one thing we do know is that, obviously, having managed in that league for donkey's years, he will know the player, right? He will. That wouldn't have suddenly come from the club, would it? That would have been the manager going, yeah, I've played against him. I like that guy.
Here we go. The perfect comment.
Of course. Yeah.
Simple, isn't it?
Of course.
Get your vision, get the people to fit that vision.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this true, the Perchie? Is this true? Is Gareth Bale retired from football? If it is, we'll talk about that in a minute. Let me know if that is true. I've got a super chat here. James Mbappe with another one. Thank you so much, my friend, has come in and said, who do you think your worst player is of all time? Wow, Kuva, have you got the next 5 hours available, or you
for Spurs or just in general?
Let's go with Spurs, I reckon.
There's a few candidates. I think Alton Thelwell has to be one of them. Absolutely.
Paolo Tremezzani.
Yeah, he's up there. Andy Booth, Raziak. Let's see. Who do you pick? I mean,
I'm
Jason Cundy.
I'm chucking Emerson Royal in there all day, every day.
Oh yeah.
Useless.
Gilberto.
Wow.
Got to be the worst Brazilian player ever, I think.
Andy Booth.
Yeah, said Andy Booth.
Oh, sorry.
Jason Dazelle. Oh yeah, Scott was a good choice as well. Jason Dazelle. Who was the next Hoddle apparently. Dreadful player. Andy Sinton for me. A winger that can't run, doesn't really cross the ball, can't beat his man.
Who would you rather have left wing, Ryan Sessegnon or Andy Sinton?
Probably Sessegnon, to be fair.
No. Come on, Andy Sinton. No.
Andy Sinton was absolute bollocks, mate.
And what does? What? All right, Bale's retired from international football. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. What does Sessegnon do?
Well, he runs up and down at least. There's more than Sinton can.
Oh, hang on, there's a name. There's a name.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah, he wasn't very good, but to be fair, we didn't waste too much time on him either.
Never caught. Here we go.
Oh,
Go
yeah,
on,
yeah. Now, this one we did waste a lot of time on.
Put your worst Spurs players ever into the chat. So I'm looking at names. We have got Guy Butters, Janssen. I don't think Janssen was one of the worst. We've had a lot worse players in my lifetime than Vincent Janssen.
He's pretty bad.
Oh, no. Freund? No.
Nah.
No. Come on. Emerson?
If people like Højbjerg, then Freund should get a pass at least.
I'm guessing you're an Arsenal fan, Paul, right? Chris Kawamia, wasn't he Arsenal?
Yeah, he was, wasn't
he? Did Chris Kawamia come from Ipswich? I don't know why. I've got Ipswich in the back of my mind.
You might be right. There's somebody with a similar name if it's not him.
Yeah. Anyway, so, Bale retiring from international football. I worry for Welsh football. I really do when I look at their squad, but I'm not Welsh, so I don't really care. YP Lee. Do you know what I always thought with YP Lee? First of all, he was always a fullback playing on the wrong side. So he'd run down that line, he'd get to the halfway line, and always, without failure, cut in onto his right. Without doubt, every time. Danny's come up. Big up to yourself, Danny Webb. Hope you're well. You can probably hear me because you live about 5 roads away from me, I think. Atuba was god-awful. Yes, Timothy Atuba. That was a bad player, wasn't it?
Absolute banger of a goal, though, we got.
Oh, yeah.
That means he's a cult hero, mate. That's the rules.
Bill Payne said, Kuva, you are dead to me. Simpson was nowhere near the worst in the team at the time, let alone all
he was absolute bollocks.
He wasn't. He wasn't.
Come on.
All right, I've got a player. I don't know whether I would put him in the worst, but who remembers?
Okay, I'll concede. Phil P. It might have been glossed over that he was better than he was because we had a shit team at the time.
And look, we've got Andy Reid, Harry Kane. I didn't like Harry Kane's performances in goal. I'll give you that. Oh my God, yeah, Kamalo. Jesus Christ.
Does that even really count? I mean, yeah.
Raziak. Harry Winks has made it in now. I think that's a bit harsh. He did come from Ipswich. Yeah, I thought so. He did come from Ipswich. Paul Stalteri. Listen, he's always going to be a hero for that goal in the 4-3 game against West Ham, isn't he? Paul Stalteri.
Yeah.
Who else?
Good shout here. Phil P saying Fazio.
Can you see this? Ben Kaufman just sent me a little dot with Andy Simpson. Oh, I love it, Ben. Great banter. Who else can we think of? Stephen Clements. What did you think of Stephen Clements in centre mid?
It's just a player that just wasn't really good enough for the side. He was all right. I mean, don't really nothing spectacularly bad about him.
Stambouli.
That's a nothing player, isn't it? It's just what was his point? He had a couple of good games, but it was mostly bollocks, wasn't it? Raymond Vega didn't exactly set the place alight either, did he? Kind of like him more as a YouTuber than.
Don't you dare, Ramon Vega. Right, whatever we say about him, that man played centre back in a team that won us a cup, and that tackle. If anyone was at the game, you'll remember this, or if you're watching it on the TV. That tackle, when they were, I think Emil Heskey was bearing down on goal, and Vega came from nowhere with this wonderful tackle, and I thought, world class, just world. Lovely guy as well, though.
That I like, yeah.
And he's going for is he going for FIFA president or UEFA president? He's chucked his hat in the ring for one of those. I'm trying to get him on. I'm trying to get him on the show again, but apparently Bale is all of football, not just Wales. As Ben Kaufman said, he's going to be going to the PGA Tour.
He's had too many ankle injuries and stuff over the years, hasn't he?
He's gone. He's gone. I'm I'm a Spurs fan for 4 years now, so for me it's Sessegnon, Dyer, Royal. In the years I've seen Delhi, for us he was awful. Yeah, I think Dyer, you could say that there was a couple of years where he did a job. I'll give him that. He did a job. Royal, absolutely. I think Sessegnon, I agree. I think is absolutely pants. Delhi, I mean, it was Jekyll and Hyde with Delhi, wasn't it? 2 or 3 years of what we talked about the other night, brilliant, and then 2 or 3 years of looking like he'd won a raffle ticket to be a footballer for a day. But no Pamaro, Toda.
Oh yeah, the trouble when we talk about a few names, it's like they haven't played or they only played 1 or 2 games on a few of them, and it's like, is that really the worst when they barely played anyway? I always like to pick the ones that played a good handful of games or a season or something, and they're absolutely dog shit right the way through.
So Bobby K, big up Bobby K. By the way, Bobby, you should send me money every day, mate, for how much I plug your channel. He has said, Ndombele, no one comes close to justifying a waste of money as much as this guy. Now, when you put it in that perspective, Kuva, of pound for pound, I kind of agree that what we spent on this guy compared to what we haven't had back in 4 years at the club, I would say is one of them up there. Not ability-wise, but ability-wise doesn't mean anything if you don't transcend that onto the pitch, does it?
Yeah, absolutely. You could put players like Bentley into that same bracket. Yeah, I think we spent quite a fair bit on it. I've forgotten how much. But again, very talented player. Did a couple of things that were great for us, but ultimately, what a waste of money.
Sure. There you go. I agree. Sinton could take on his man. Cess can't do that.
Well, he looked like he was struggling to walk through treacle to me.
Tell you what we should all do is all find our best Andy Sinton YouTube compilation and play it for Kuva.
Oh God, I'm not having it. You can't be picking up Andy Sinton for Christ's sake.
Do you remember the era, Kuva, where we had Andy Sinton left wing and Rule Fox on the right wing? They're about that big.
Oh dear God.
God. Brilliant. I thought Sinton was good at QPR. I thought he did a job. I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, did a job. Players that were good at QPR. I think there's a few of them.
Ryan Nelson, Kevin Prince Boateng. I think Kevin Prince Boateng was for me nowhere near one of the worst players I've seen in a Spurs shirt. Nowhere near it for me. Another one that was hugely talented. Don't think he ever really got enough run of games and was probably at the wrong club. But hey,
I think the all-time world Spurs 11 worst Spurs 11. That's definitely got to be a charity stream, hasn't it?
Oh God, we'd definitely do that. Oh, we've got so many
best,
things.
Worst. Yeah,
I was going to message you later actually and go, right, give me as many ideas for this 24-hour charity stream as possible.
Yeah.
But
no worries. I'll be onto it, mate. Yeah.
I want you on there from 9 p.m, Kuva. I need you to help me from the start, from the Friday.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Screen time. YouTube addict. I've got to be on.
Absolutely. Look, we've got Carl Norton's, Ginger Pele's. All right, let's try another question for everyone in the chat. Right? Who do you think has been the most underrated player at Spurs since you've supported them? Underrated. So obviously don't put in a Kane, a Son, a Bale. They're not underrated. A truly underrated player that you thought did a really good job, but maybe fans got on their back or they didn't get the credit they deserved.
Oh, fans got on their back. Well, that's a more difficult one.
Well, it doesn't have to be the fans got on their back, but just somebody who did well, didn't really get the credit they deserved. For me, I'm going to go with an Alan Nilsson. I thought Alan Nilsson did a decent job in midfield for us in a really poor team. I thought he did okay. I'm not saying great. I'm just chucking in players like that. Like Leonardson, I'm guessing that was still one of the worst, but I definitely wouldn't have Leonardson as one of the worst I'd seen. Do you mean Chris Armstrong?
Derek Hutchinson's from my sort of era. He picked the player I was going to pick, Paul Allen.
Paul Allen, yeah, again, players like Paul Allen, yeah,
absolute workhorse. He was one of those players that used to run himself into the ground and have to get taken off with severe cramp at the end of games.
Who's that?
Yeah,
who's that?
Oh, I can't really. I can't see. Oh no, that's the goalie, isn't it?
That's Ian Walker.
Yeah, Ian Walker. Oh God.
Yeah, guys,
we've had some shit goalkeepers, haven't we?
Oh, we've had some shit,
and we've had some of the greatest as well.
Yeah, we are going to do a worst Spurs 11 on the 24-hour charity stream. What we're going to do as well, we're going to do a worst Spurs 11. We're going to do a best Premier League 11, a worst Premier League 11. And one of the things we were going to talk about the other day was every Premier League club's best ever Premier League signing.
Oh, I've got another one as well. Spurs all-time cult 11.
An all-time cult 11. Cult.
As in, not the best players, just ones that fans really took to, despite their ability.
Yeah. Oh, Bobby Zamora. I wanted him to be so good purely because of that song. You know,
when you're stuck in Rosette and
like a big jumbo jet, it's
Zamora. Oh dear.
Hossam Ghali. Hossam Ghali was real bad.
I don't think he was all that bad. He was just, it was his attitude, wasn't it? It was it stunk.
Somebody said underrated. Andy Sinton. Steve Malbronk, a very tidy footballer, a very good footballer, good technical ability. I liked Steve. I thought he did a good job for a few years for us. I agree. Dawson, for sure.
Timu Tainio.
Timu Tainio. Yeah, he was part of the old team that started to revolutionise us.
Yeah. Sandro.
Stephan Carr, my lord. What I would give for Stephan Carr, my lord, at right wing back now.
I don't think he was underrated though.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Remember when Judas went?
Yeah.
Was if you're going to forget, so that sort of thing. But when he went, I remember talking to one of my mates in the pub who was also Spurs, and I said to him, "You know what? I prefer he went than Stephan Carr did." And he goes, "You know what? I think you're right." Because at that point, Stephan Carr was our attacking, free-flowing attacking fullback. He was great for us.
And you can never forget the goal that he pinged in the top bins against Man United at home when we won 3-1. Yeah. Flying down that wing and just unleashed this. To be fair, so this was really sad, actually. A guy about 5 rows away from me actually had a heart attack when that went in and died. It was honestly, it was just like, it's how I remember that goal more than anything. It was like, oh my God, someone's got way too excited. You've got players like Lamela, underrated. This guy, I thought, was an excellent defender. I thought defensively superb. Problem with him in the modern era was he had no legs on him. He couldn't get up. But I'd back him against any winger in terms of them not flying past him. He was very good defensively. Peter Crouch. God, there we go. David Clark's going back to the Tony Galvin era.
Absolutely.
Pavlyuchenko.
I agree with that. Underrated, yeah. Very much so. Yeah.
Wonderful. Do you know what? I would love Tommy Huddleston in this 11, sitting in that midfield, pinging the ball about. But I can imagine he would be not a Conte player in any way, shape or form.
Conte's got to have the workhorses in the those positions,
Was Richard Goff underrated? I thought he was absolutely
he was a fantastic player, yeah. One of the best central defensive partnerships I've seen was him and Mabba.
Well, Palacios, Coover and I put him in our top 20 Premier League signings the other day. We're going back to the 67s before your time. Phil Bill. I want to say this is, and actually, no, it's not Phil Bill. I met who's the other one that played for Liverpool? Phil Neal.
Phil Neal, yeah.
Phil Neal. I met Phil Neal. I was at a corporate event at Liverpool years ago. And I was going out with someone who she supported Liverpool. So long story. And I remember I was at a table with Phil Neal, and the conversation got to Lionel Messi, and everyone's going, "Oh my God, he's amazing!" And he just stood up and he went, "I've won more Champions Leagues than Lionel Messi," and he walked off. We were all like, "It was like, God,
that's awesome, isn't it? Yeah,
that's a claim, isn't it?"
What a you think the Liverpool team now's good? Well, perhaps not this season. Sorry, just 1 second, Sarr.
Yeah, God, you're right.
Boys just got back.
I mean, look, Rocket Ronnie Rosenthal. I mean, for those of you who remember Ronnie Rosenthal, you can remember him for many ways as a footballer, not just at Tottenham. The hat trick against Southampton in the Cup when we won 6-2, maybe. Someone nearer my age might be able to put that in the chat. And then he's obviously on every blooper video ever for his 3-yard miss for Liverpool, which I believe hit the bar, I think. So, yeah, Edgar Davids, what a footballer Edgar Davids was, just lifted the mood. Wanyama was definitely... Højbjerg, I mean, Højbjerg's a funny one, right? Because this guy splits opinions in our club like you wouldn't believe. I was seeing people the other day calling for Sarr now as to definitely play above Højbjerg, and I'm gonna pick that up as the next subject when Kuva gets back. Yeah, look, listen. I don't think this guy was underrated. I thought he was just absolutely shite. I thought he was one of the worst players I've seen put on a Spurs shirt. Couldn't control a ball, couldn't trap a ball, couldn't pass, couldn't shoot. Awful. He is the Emerson Royal of central midfield.
Okay, you're allowed to shout Chelsea wankers though if you want.
Chelsea wankers.
Lovely. You've got the approval of about 250 people in the chat. Kuva, I want to talk to you about this. We'll come away from the players of the past. We do like dipping in every now and then to that. It's good fun. I keep seeing lots of people now having this chat about they'd like to see Papa Sarr play over Højbjerg when all fit in that midfield. Where do you stand on that? And do you think that those fans are being just a little bit reactionary to about 80 minutes of football that we've seen Papa Sarr play in the last 2 games?
I don't mind being a bit reactionary. It's a bit of fun. You got to have your hopes up sometimes, otherwise this club will just send you over the edge.
Yeah, true.
I think he looks a decent player who doesn't look out of place in the Premiership. That's a good start when you're a youngster. Can we gather that from 24 minutes against Crystal Palace? Can we really turn around and say he doesn't look out of place in 24 minutes? Well, what point of the game did he look out of place?
But again,
that's it. So there you go. Seen players come on with a 20-minute cameo before and look absolutely atrocious to the point where they've been subbed again.
Sure,
so we can certainly see how it goes the other way. It's just a player just looks like one of many to me. You're in a nice frozen position there at the moment. That was definitely a one for wankety wank face. Yeah, okay. You're back. All right. Yeah.
Okay, but my point is this.
I don't think it's right to overhype the player with that, but just give him a nod of the head saying that was good. Let's see if you can keep doing that.
But I mean, for me, it's not so much in terms of this question. For me, it's not so much about will he become good, because obviously that's one of them things we don't know yet. For me, it was more, look, Højbjerg does split fans' opinion at time, but every manager plays him religiously. He gives his all, and you kind of know what you're going to get. He's not had a bad season, and straight away from a 24-minute cameo, people going, "Oh, Sarr should take his place." Isn't it a bit too soon for that? Like, would you really want to start seeing Sarr start games in the midfield against Arsenal above Højbjerg? Really?
No. Well, the thing is with Højbjerg, it's one thing I've always been critical of him over is something he can't help. He's a slow player. I don't think he covers the ground enough. And if you're playing against a team that moves the ball around very quickly, that's a huge disadvantage. Would I risk Matasar ahead of Højbjerg getting the North London derby? At the moment, I don't think it really matters. I think the things that are going to matter for us is things like, is Kulusevski going to be playing? That's a far more important question
Of course. But I'm just saying, I'm one of those where I think, listen, I want to see how Sarr progresses. I'll be honest, I didn't see anything that made me go, oh my God. I know a lot of people are going absolutely doolally over him. I saw a player that was neat. He was tidy. He did what he needed to do and he did it well. But I didn't see anything there that made me go, wow. Do you know what I mean? And I wouldn't expect to from that little football cougar. That's the point. I'm not digging the guy out. I'm saying
let's not get carried away with doing something you're expected to do. It's like when you see on those the chat shows, the American chat shows or something, when you get the black bloke comes in with the stereotypical I look after my kids. I'm like, well, yeah, you're supposed to. Why are you looking for credit on that? I mean, it's like it's just the way it's been. We're kind of desperate for just this consistently good player coming through through the doors all the time. I think because we've seen so little of it, we're grabbing any little snippets of something good and thinking this is the way forward. We're not thinking it, hoping it. It's all about hope, mate. It's
I mean, I'm sorry, Mikhail. I know you like to go against everything I'm saying. I'm sorry. No. Sissoko was absolutely shocking. Cougar, am I dreaming this? I mean,
no. I know what Mikhail's saying though.
What, in one game?
There were occasional games where Sissoko suddenly looked good for 5 minutes.
Crap.
He did it for the national team. But he's a crap player. I'm with you, mate. I think he's a crap player. It's everything I hate about the modern game. But it started for me really noticeable when all the money came into the Premier League and we're getting these massive TV revenues coming in and buying foreign players and all this talented players coming in. I'm thinking, great. And at the same time, we have the likes of Real Madrid making the Makelele role popular, the player that just does nothing but sit there defensively minded and doesn't do anything interesting. And ever since then, I felt we're always backing, bigging up players that just do that. Oh, he works really hard. Oh, brilliant! That's football, is it?
Yeah.
Why not be a talented player who works hard? Messi does that. Iniesta used to do that.
Of course, yeah. I don't get this that if you work hard, you're a good player. Like Lamella, he runs around a lot and he shithouses. So that's not my benchmark of a footballer. This is an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, I would say Sarr is the best of the backups, seeing as Basuma is playing rubbish. So I suppose when you throw into this debate, okay, people are now saying, all right, let's get Sarr in above Højbjerg. What does that then mean for a player that we were all so excited to sign in the summer in terms of Basuma? Where does that leave Basuma? Like, it's amazing how things change like that, isn't it?
Basuma, you're not Benzuma. I agree. Well, where does it leave you when it feels like you join in a club here? It must feel like it for a lot of players. You don't get a chance. You wonder why did I come here exactly? You could work your socks off in training and still not get a chance.
Yeah.
It's why are we getting so many for these positions and this constant talk of, we've got to have the squad filled out with all of these players. But then when you actually look at it, they barely get a chance. I would prefer, rather than having, say, Sarr sit on the bench for all but, say, 3 games of the season, I'd prefer we don't even sign him, or we send him out on loan somewhere and just bring in an academy player for those 3 games. Is the level going to quality level going to dip? Yes, but we're talking about 3 games. It's just not worth that trade-off for me. We got players here for no reason whatsoever.
Agreed, mate. Agreed.
Cult hero Paul Stewart, definitely.
Oh, Paul Stewart was good. Yeah, I interviewed him as well. Really nice guy. Really good guy. Paul Stewart was a very good footballer. Paul Stewart. When I interviewed him and he was telling me the story about how he joined Spurs and first speaking with Venables and Gaza and that, it was truly brilliant. I mean, look, the difficulty for me is So let's be fair. This is how you get your chance in football, right? Is when other players are injured or there's suspensions and whatever. My question is when everyone's fit, I don't think you're going to really see Papa Sarr. If I'm honest, I think he's got his three sorted in terms of Basuma, Højbjerg, and Bentancur, and that's why there's still talks of him going out on loan to was it Salernitana in the Serie A. I think they're about 15th, 16th in the Serie A. So. I mean, would you say that that's a good thing for him to go back out on loan and actually play week in, week out, get 90 minutes? Or do you think he'd be better served at Tottenham coming on every now and then?
Constant game time. No player's going to get themselves back into form or back into fitness or improve without competitive football on a regular basis. Yeah, that's well-established fact. It's good for players sometimes to come in and mingle with the first team squad, get used to the players, get an idea of the flavour of how the club wants to play the game, what's expected, and the sort of quality of the players that they're going to be playing with, and get a feel for it. But it's no good just keeping them there doing that. You've got to give them game time. It's it's the one thing. I hate to say, but it's true. I admire what Arsenal have done. They've brought in those young players. They go in the team. They do get time. We don't do that. We waste a lot of careers at this club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Just quickly, this is an interesting one. I say interesting one. It's quite easy for me to answer. I'm sure it is for you, Kuva. Savra and Kuva, who would be your favourite players over Kane and Bale?
It depends how you read the question.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Do you mean aside from Kane and Bale? Should we do that?
Or like, who's my favourite players of all time, not including those two for us?
Yeah, go for it. At Spurs.
Which would be, first of all, Glenn Hoddle, absolute god at this club. Better than, hands down, better than anybody. One of my other favourites, Paul Gascoigne, all-round entertainment, brilliant footballer. Could thrill you, get you off your seat, as well as make you laugh out loud. It was just fantastic to watch. Steve Perryman, awesome bloke. One of my heroes. Captain, fantastic. Controlled the games, controlled the team. Everybody respected him. And I'd say, with some great players in the 80s and everything, but always for me, a personal favourite would be Graham Roberts. Captaining the side in the absence of Steve Perryman when we won the UEFA Cup. And when you say a player will run through a brick wall for you, with Graham Roberts, he means it. He really would. Absolutely put himself on the line at any time. Famously, first couple of minutes of the FA Cup final, in a fall, he lands, smashes his front teeth out. That would have been the end of the game for most players. He goes into the treatment room. They say they're going to take him off. He goes, sod that. He goes running straight back out again, so he doesn't get taken off out of the game. Plays the rest of the game with it. Had a solid game. That's with blood gushing out of his mouth all the time. Don't get that nowadays because you can't. But it's just the temperament of the man. Proper warrior. When they talk about warriors nowadays, they got nothing on.
Oh no. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean,
and then people that have supported the club even longer would probably say Graham Roberts has got nothing on Dave Mackay,
right? And then Blanchflower and like Cliff Jones and players like I mean, for me, my top six doesn't change. No one's come into the Spurs in recent years that has made my top six change in any way, shape, or form. And this is players I've seen live for Tottenham. I think it's hypocritical for me to go back to the 70s and 60s when I didn't see people play, right? Because obviously otherwise Greaves and Blanchflower and them boys will be in it. For me, the top, in no particular order, my top six has always been Paul Gascoigne, David Ginola, Gareth Bale, Chris Waddle, and Glenn Hoddle. And I suppose if I'm chucking in there, I'd chuck in. I mean, if I chuck in Harry Kane, I mean, I've got to
Jason Cundy.
I've got two for Harry Kane for his goals as well. For me, I just loved watching players like Waddle and Ginola was the reason I started going to football games. Watching someone who gets the ball, dips their shoulder, that close control, that low centre of gravity. You know, someone that when they dribble, the ball is like Messi, like when it's stuck to the foot. Lots of players now, I feel like they're good and quick and run past players, and we confuse that for dribbling. So for me, I would go those boys. Modric for obvious reasons. Gaza was just, I don't know what Gaza would be worth now. No. I said Gaza. I Gaza is always in my. Gaza for me was one of the greatest players I've ever seen live. He was.
Yeah, you'd be talking a £200 million player at the moment, I think.
Yeah. That's why when we talk about, it's like when people say to me now, like I got called the other day, someone said I'm negative because I said I didn't think Bentancur was anywhere near world class, right? And someone went, oh, you're not a real fan. But I was like, listen, I've seen players like Paul Gascoigne play centre mid for Spurs. And I like Bentancur. Nowadays, it feels like you can't just say you like a player. You have to think they're world class or shit. I like Bentancur. I think he's a very good footballer. He's got that kind of foreign outlook of the game, you know, smooth, silky, languid, but very good on the ball. But when I look at these players now that people want to tell me are world class, then I look at the players I've seen just in a Spurs shirt like Ginola and Gaza and Waddle and Hoddle. These players at the moment don't hold a candle for me. It's only for me.
Yeah.
Each to their own.
You can appreciate a good player, but you've got to say when you talk about world class, they've really got to have something special.
Oh, for sure.
And then, of course, there's that tier above where we say genius.
Oh, yeah, and there's not many that go in there. So let's name some geniuses, not a Tottenham. Let's name geniuses. For me, I'll start with a Tottenham player. We'll go with Hoddle.
Oh, let's go for the most recent, Messi.
All right. Johan Cruyff.
Yeah, that's it. Done.
No.
Ronaldinho.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I'll go with Zinedine Zidane.
I'll go with Ronaldo, number 9.
Oh, God, he's so good. I'll go with Eusebio.
Well, in that case, I'll have to go with Puskás.
Oh, I'll go with Bobby Moore. Could you put Bobby Moore in that genius bracket?
Yeah. When Pele rates him as the greatest defender he'd played against,
right,
he's good. He's a bit good, isn't he? You went with Bobby Moore. In that case, I'd have to go Bobby Zamora. Because that's obviously better.
I might as well go Bobby K then. Bobby Zamora. Bobby K, you're a genius.
Okay. There's
what about this guy on the screen? Genius?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, we've missed the obvious, right? We've missed the obvious.
Yeah, of course. The working round to them. Hadji. Absolutely stunning player.
Romario.
Yeah.
People that were different. So they got the goals, they got the assists, but there was different. You know what I mean? Like for me, I'll probably piss Spurs fans off here. Harry Kane, you put him up there for goals, but for me, not got that genius spark that the players we're talking about. Do you know what I mean? And that's no disrespect because we're talking about a group of about 15 people here that have ever played the game of football.
There's a lot of people mentioning the same name that makes me very angry every time I see it, and that's the one.
Bergkamp.
Because this is why I hate Jerry Francis. Jerry Francis was offered Dennis Bergkamp and said no because he didn't know what to do with him. Jesus Christ.
Platini.
Yeah.
See, I would now. I don't know if I put these into the genius bracket. I've definitely got both of these two into the world class bracket for me. I don't know if they would genius bracket. That's just me.
Yeah, I'll see where you're coming from on that.
Possibly Ronaldo. Possibly. Beckenbauer.
Yeah, without doubt. All-time great.
There's one.
He's got to be knocking on that door, hasn't he?
I mean,
he's way ahead of most players.
for me, the best player that's ever played in the Premier League. There you go. I said it. I'll tell you what, we will have that debate.
Yeah, you can't have a conversation without his name in it. I'll give you that.
No, for sure. So for me, for example, what he did in the Premier League for me was so much better than what Cristiano Ronaldo did in it. Do you know what I mean? I think Cristiano Ronaldo, most of his plaudits and everything is Real Madrid, right? I'm not saying he didn't do well, but Henry for me was just, he was different. He could do it all, off the left, through the centre, pace, touch, passing, goals, volleys, headers, passing into the net. He made football look very, very easy, did Thierry Henry.
Yeah. Daniel Turner's just done the one I was going to do next, Matt Letizia.
Oh, right. Hang on. Before we come to Matt Letizia, let's just have a look at some of the names. George Best got to be in that bracket.
Yeah. Without
got to be. It's just such a shame. Another troubled genius, wasn't he? Gaza.
Retired at 28, if I remember rightly. 28. What a shame.
There's loads of them, isn't there? Gaza, Maradona, George Best, troubled geniuses with
Zamora.
With drugs, you know. Let's Stoichkov.
Zamora's more troubled genius. He was more troubled with his ability, I think.
Del Piero was a top player. For me, I think probably just a level below. Now, this guy, my uncle swears by, this is one of the best players he's ever seen. He swears by, he said, this guy, Garrincha, from the Brazil 60s and 70s, right?
Yeah.
He swears by Garrincha being one of the best footballers he's ever seen. Obviously,
I've heard that from a few people as well.
Yeah. So it's good to remember the old players, man. It's good. I would say to anybody who's under the age of 25, 30, if you haven't seen these players or heard of them, go and watch them, because these footballers did disgusting things with a football that we don't see a lot now. You don't see. I don't think there's many Mavericks out there in football anymore. You've got Messi, you've got Mbappe. There's not many that I go, oh my God, he's on the TV, I'm turning on no matter what time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Another name I'll mention that it's not going to be known by a lot of people unless they either study the game, the history of the game, or they're old enough for it. I've always studied the history of the game. So for me, Duncan Edwards goes into the conversation. He died in the Munich air crash, but he was an England captain at some ridiculous age, like 17 or so. No, it might have been a bit older.
You're talking Duncan Edwards.
Yeah, but he was a young player who basically controlled the entire game.
Yeah.
He was respected by people much older than him as being the captain. He was somebody who just oozed confidence and charisma and the ability to just control everything around him. He decided what happened on the pitch. And he's absolutely legendary figure. But you have to study the history of the game a bit to find out more about him. It's a shame with a lot of these ones because we don't have all the video footage available for a lot of them, which is real shame. You have to rely on what people said about them. I always think when you get your peers talk about you as though you are one of the greatest players that they've ever seen in an era when it's coming from players like Beckenbauer talking about Pele, you realise Pele must be something special. I didn't see him play live, but seen a few videos and of documentaries and people talking about him. Then you get a flavour of how good they are. And then you put it all together with the little scraps you do see of them, and it makes sense. Yeah. With Duncan Edwards, unfortunately, there's no real footage, is there? It's just all about what people said about him at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. This is an interesting question from Danny Kiriakou. Big up the bun. He has said, question, boys, GOAT centre-back. Oh, I hate that word, GOAT. Franz Beckenbauer or Maldini? Who's the GOAT? This is such a difficult conversation because, let's be fair, I grew up watching Maldini. Yeah. Beckenbauer was before my time, but people talk about Beckenbauer like I was a god. But I don't think I ever saw Maldini have a bad game. I thought Maldini was him and Baresi were the best centre-backs I've ever seen. For me.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those conversations where you put in 3 players, and if you ask them themselves, they'd probably pick each other.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's the thing for me. But difficult because
for me, it's Maldini just because I saw him play. I didn't really see Beckenbauer play.
Yeah. I mean, I just remember growing up watching the Milan team and Baresi and Maldini. I mean, Milan didn't concede goals. Like their defense was impenetrable. It was just so good. Look, there's been. Listen, say there'll be so many debates. Don't you worry about that, Palmsy. Come the weekend, we could debate about anything. We're going to get Ben Kaufman on.
Do a 24-hour stream just on this one.
Yeah, well, we're going to get Ben on to have the Kit Kat biscuit debate. That will be definitely going on in there.
Oh, he's going down.
He doesn't know anything about biscuits or Kit Kats, does he, Ben? He thinks he talks such a good game.
Yeah, he talks a good chocolate game.
Oh, I make
coffee. But what happens to chocolate when you turn the heat up? That's right, it melts. Biscuits are all right, though, aren't they?
Oh, I know coffee, therefore I know biscuits. No, stick to coffee, mate. You don't know biscuits. Sorry, Ben, we love you. We'll get you on Friday / Saturday. God knows who's going to be watching or coming on throughout the night, but sod it, we're going for it. And I've told the missus to go and stay at her mum's. So that's going to be fun. Bobby Charlton, great player from what I've seen. Again, from what I've seen. Baggio, another player.
Enjoyed watching him. Yeah.
We just talked about Maldini, Van Basten, Tequila 136.
Van Basten. Oh my God. That time for Milan when Van Basten, Rijkaard and Hullet were there. Oh my God, they were fantastic to watch. And Holland at the time as well, Van Basten. Some of the goals he scored are just unbelievable finishes.
Yeah.
Some of the best finishing I've ever seen by anybody, Messi included. It was just dynamite. Tragic that his career was cut short.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. I'm not even going to read that name out. It gets Kuva all sorts of angry and annoyed. I know that much.
Had him and Walker as well mentioned in the same sentence. That's torture. Throwing Andy Sinton at the end, I'm done.
Yeah, look, people like Pele, Rivellino and Jorginho and I mean Kaka for a few years for me, was right up there. But I mean, I think for me, I like to try and separate it. For me, even if there's another bracket added, there's just 4 or 5 that sit above everyone else, and that's the bracket you put Maradona, Pele, and Messi into. For me, that's
proper goats. Those stuff.
Proper goats. I mean, listen, everyone's going to have their own. It's one of those debates, and we'll debate loads at the weekend. It's one of those ones where you can never have a right or wrong because it all depends what era you grew up in, how much you saw, what your definition is. My definition for me, for these goats, so to speak, is I look at Lionel Messi doing it from the age of 16 and still doing it at the age of 35 whilst winning World Cups. That, for me, is what sets him apart from everyone from me. Ronaldo R9, one of the best strikers I ever saw. Again, it was in that short time, that short time. Maradona, patchy because of injuries and drugs and stuff. When I look at Messi, that's only me, right? And I suppose I've got the hindsight of I've seen his whole career. I've seen all 20 years of his career, right? As opposed to Maradona, who I would have seen the back end of his career. And you know what I mean? So it's a tough one, isn't it?
And then for me, even though I didn't see much of him play, except for in sort of, the twilight of his career in America and stuff like that. But Pele, 3 World Cups in his trophy cabinet. Sure. And the best players in the world at the time saying he is the best by a mile.
Yeah.
Everybody else is. I love that one. I think it was Puskás saying Di Stefano is the greatest player in the world, but I don't count Pele because Pele you can't even count as a player. He's just a god.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, look, for me, at the end of the day, it's one of those ones where you just don't. You don't know. You can never say for definite, but I can only say for me, my top 3 will never veer away. I say never. It's definitely not veering away anytime soon because I'm not seeing anyone in the world that can do what these boys did. I'm still, my top three is in no particular order: Pele, Maradona, and Messi. I think everyone else we've mentioned was fantastic and brilliant at what they did at times, but those three for me just phenomenal. Phenomenal for me. I don't put anyone in their bracket, just me.
I think another one that sort of not taints my view, but encourages me to sway towards Pele and Maradona and people like that is they were playing, and George Best as well, we'll put him in the same bracket. They were players playing in an era where they did not have the same protection from referees that players do now. They were playing where you would have players named things like Chopper Harris, whose role was to basically smash into the player and just stop them finishing the match. George Best, yep. Sounds about right.
What you looking at? Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah. So yeah, it's difficult to compare in that from that point of view. And then rule changes and things. You might get somebody awesome goal scorer in one period. They wouldn't have got as many goals under a different rule set in a different period. Yeah. It's a difficult conversation. I think you always have to look at how much better they were than the players around them at the time.
I agree. It's so difficult because I see it both ways with the argument, right? So the argument is, oh, well, the players then wouldn't be able to do it now because they weren't as fit. But then that argument falls down because if they were playing now, they'd be as fit as the players now. They'd have the same medical teams and that. Sure. And then it's, oh, these players now wouldn't be able to do anything because back then they wouldn't be getting kicked. But you adjust to the era you're in, right? So it's really difficult when we're going, oh, him from the 60s is better than him from 2022. It's so difficult. But as I said, those three for me just... Listen, I wasn't one of these people who... And big up Bobby K, by the way. Thank you so much for the super chat. One of my favourite people in the YouTube world, Bobby K. Free Spurs Boys Media Fund. Thanks, Savra, and big up the chat. One of the things... I wasn't one of these people, Coover, that thought Messi needed a World Cup. For me, I thought that was a bit of a... I think it's a wishy-washy argument. But the fact that he's now done that, and it wasn't that he just won it. He wasn't a bystander as part of a team that won it. He won the World Cup. Like he got how many goals, how many assists, how many cool penalties, captain, player of the tournament. When you put that alongside all his Champions Leagues, what's he got, over 800 goals? So I just want to check. Like that, yeah. I just want to check the dog doesn't want to start grooming himself. What are you doing? He's going to get embarrassed now because he knows I'm looking at him.
My bollocks, Dad.
He's like, Daddy, I've got to watch. I've got to watch at some point. Look, we're going to go for another 5 or 6 minutes. Guys, yeah.
The Messi thing, because it was always the big debate, Messi or Ronaldo in current years, wasn't it?
So I never understood that debate.
I agree. Ronaldo, I can watch and I think, wow, he's one of the best goal scorers that's ever been. But Messi, on the other hand, for me, when I watch him play, I just think this is what football is. This is what I love. This puts me in a dream world. This is the kind of stuff I wasn't ever capable of doing, vision I wasn't capable of, and talent I'll never understand. And the fact he does it so many times, he makes me love football. That's the difference. Ronaldo is incredibly good at what he does, incredibly talented. But like I said, if a player makes you love the game, that's somebody worth worshipping.
For sure. This has always been my argument, right? My argument was always this. What can Cristiano Ronaldo do that Messi can't? I don't know what the answer is. What can Messi
win a very difficult header?
Fair enough, but you're not pumping the ball high up to Lionel Messi, are you? Right?
Bloody should.
Then the question is, what can Messi do that Ronaldo can't? And now I've got a long list of things for you that Ronaldo can't. Listen, I'm not knocking Ronaldo when I say that, by the way. I'm not knocking. Ronaldo's been the greatest goal scorer I think I've seen other than Messi, for decades, right? The boy's a phenomenal goal scorer. But for me, I think what we've seen from Messi in the last few years, the last 4 or 5 years, his ability to go, yeah, I'm not the same player. I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to drop deep. I'm going to come and collect the ball, and I'm going to start moves. I'm going to decide when I need to go, when I need to stay, when I need to pass, when I need to dribble. You know, for me, I think he's the ultimate team player. I think he's the ultimate footballer. For me, that's just me, right? That's just me. If people prefer Ronaldo, I've got nothing against those people. I just don't think Ronaldo can do what Messi can with a football. Here's a good one. Just quickly for the last debate, because I do have to go in a minute. Azad, big up for the super chat. As said, Kane or Prime Bale? Who are you taking, Kuva?
It's got to be Prime Bale. I love Harry Kane, but Prime Bale, my God, you'd believe in miracles with him. You could be losing 5 minutes to go, or drawing with 5 minutes to go, and you know he's going to hit a winner.
So you've never seen Messi score a free kick? Didn't Lionel Messi at one point had scored the most free kicks in world football? Please don't come to me with silly arguments. Sorry, mate. Go on to Prime Bale.
Prime Bale. Just I would say taxi for Maicon. You can't appreciate that. When can you? It's not even the first game where he got the hat trick. For me, it was in the second game at White Hart Lane. There was one incident. Although the ball went out of play, they're in the box right next to each other. And Bale plays the ball round one side of him and has the cheek and audacity to run the long way round the other side of him, sort of like a dad does against his little kid when playing in the back garden. It took the piss. If it only had stayed in play, it would have been one of the most funny, absolute, bits of roasting you'll ever see on a football pitch. And Maicon was considered the greatest fullback around at that time. Bale every time. Kane's been great for us. Love him to bits, but Bale, my God, that was the dream sort of finish to games. Was he did it so many times.
It's always difficult, isn't it, when comparing these two players like this? Because hang on, let me move my camera so that we don't have to see Frank doing his business. Don't get embarrassed, mate. You keep doing what you're doing. For me, the difference for me is, again, it's difficult because their jobs are very different. Kane is a goal scorer, right? And now, he started to drop deep and dictate, etc. But Bale could do anything, and Bale played in a really poor team and had these moments every week where he was picking it up, beating 2-3 men and whacking it into the top corner. He got the fingers as well for Bale. Look, he got the move. So even if we're saying Prime Bale at Real Madrid, he got the move. He won them Champions Leagues. It's such a tough question. But again, for me, I go, who's going to get me off my seat, Kuva? That's what I go as a football fan. Who's going to get me off my seat? It's Gareth Bale in his peak.
Kane gets you off his seat when he scores a goal.
Oh,
Bale would do it just by running past people.
Yeah, this is definitely a debate we'll have on Friday. Who's the best British player of all time? Because there's a lot of players that can be chucked in there. So we'll have a list of all these debates, Kuva, that we can go through. Sava, Ronaldo is the GOAT. It's the word GOAT. I just can't. It's so silly. Ronaldo is the GOAT, better than Ronaldo. You are just angry that Ronaldo scores Spurs 3 goals a single game. Yes, that must be it, Ismail. I've based my 20-year opinion on Messi and Ronaldo on Ronaldo scoring 3 goals against Tottenham.
And everybody else with the same opinion must clearly be a Spurs fan now.
Right. What a stupid thing to say. I also was at Wembley and witnessed Lionel Messi destroy Tottenham Hotspur. Destroy Tottenham Hotspur.
And we applauded him for it.
Listen, this is the thing, Ismail. You're doing that thing that Ronaldo and Messi fanboys can't stop. You believe that because I think one's better than the other, that it means I don't rate the other one. Right? That's what you're doing. I see it. Whenever I see these Messi and Ronaldo stands or fans, whatever they're called, having this debate, they have to put the other one down. Why? Why can't you just say, look, 2 absolute geniuses, but this one for me is better? Why does it have to be, but Ronaldo's crap. Ronaldo this, he sulks. Look, it is what it is. Kuva,
it's kind of like you saying, having the argument, weighing up who's the greatest goal scorer of all time versus who's the greatest midfielder. It's a different style, it's a different role. Yeah.
Right. It's like I've always said that the best two midfielders I've seen over the years for me has been Xavi and Iniesta, right? But when asked an all-time 11, I always say, right, who's the manager? Because depending on who my manager is, depends if I want Xavi and Iniesta in it. So if you're giving me Pep, give me Xavi and Iniesta. If you're giving me Jose Mourinho, I don't want Xavi and Iniesta in a Jose Mourinho style of football. Do you know what I mean? So for me, there's always different.
It's really weird because you'd say, mention players like Xavi and Iniesta and Zidane and things like that. But then I would also say Steven Gerrard's one of the greatest midfielders I've ever seen. But I wouldn't rate him as talented as the other three in that conversation.
Yeah.
He's just got that all-roundness to him and captaincy and everything and right place, right time. And to Liverpool, he was absolutely irreplaceable. But
this is sorry, I can't. This is when I hear this. This is one of them arguments. It's like winning the World Cup. It makes no sense to me, right? To CR7 proven in 3 countries, I'm not sure Messi would have been as effective. I don't understand this. Lionel Messi has got more goals per games than Ronaldo has. He's got more assists than Ronaldo has. He's won a World Cup. He's got more Ballon d'Ors. Why would Messi not have been as effective in those other leagues like Ronaldo has? Because whenever Messi played against a Premier League team, Kuva, he destroyed them. And they were the good teams. They weren't even... Imagine what he would do against Stoke City was the argument. Yeah, I will imagine how many 5 goals he'd get in an evening at Stoke City. It's such a weird debate, that.
Oh, it's like if the boil it down to the usual one is like, I wouldn't have managed it in the Premier League with this physicality in the league. But then you think, well, Gianfranco Zola did pretty well. David Silva did pretty well. These weren't big players.
And they're not as good as him.
But what did they all have? They were bloody good players.
Oh.
So Messi would have made it anywhere. He's genius.
Messi is a genius. What makes me laugh is this. I always hear, and I can tell when people don't watch the Spanish League, Kuva. I can tell when they don't watch it because they come out with things like, but he gets more time on the ball there. He'd be kicked more here. If you go and watch, you can find YouTube compilations of, literally the compilations are called Lionel Messi getting kicked. And it just shows you game after game after game, players clattering him. Literally, no attempt for the ball, just clattering him. He gets up, dusts himself down, he goes again. This, I've never understood this. All right, Ronaldo did it in the Italian league. People call the Italian league crap, but apparently Messi would have struggled. Messi would struggle in the Premier League, but I've seen Messi destroy Spurs, Man United twice in 2 Champions League finals. Arsenal, Chelsea. I don't know. Are we saying that he'd struggle against the likes of West Ham, Brighton? Sorry, where Bournemouth? Where is Lionel Messi struggling? That's what I've never understood about this thing. I feel like, of course, it's a shame we didn't see him in the Prem, but at the end of the day, he made Barcelona the best team for over a decade. And why would you leave there? Why would you
come on? He could have had a career at Spurs. It's his loss, isn't it?
Yeah. This one, I listen. You don't need to know my name. I love that. I love this argument. I first ever heard Andy Gray say something this stupid when it was like, oh, but what would I don't know? It wasn't Messi he was talking about. He was talking about someone. He said, yeah, but on a wet night in Stoke, and I thought to myself, you think Lionel Messi, for example, would get to Stoke and go, I'm so worried about this. I don't know how am I possibly going to cope with their defenders? Lionel Messi would score 3 or 4 a game against the likes of Stoke. I've never understood it. But hey, that's me. Just quickly, at it again. How
did they? Because they got owners that want to splash cash to make the team successful. Whether they're doing it this style, I don't know. But that's American ownership for you with business. If they want something to work, throw money at it. It works eventually.
Yeah. Do you know what this whole Messi conversation does show me, just before we log off, right, is it doesn't matter how much you achieve, yeah? It doesn't matter. Some people just want to knock you down.
Oh, absolutely.
That man right now should be, it should be unquestionable. What more can that man do now in football to stop people doubting anything about him?
And the argument of, he hasn't done it in several different leagues. Why does he have to?
Why he did it in the Champions League for 150 games or whatever he's played? Why does he?
Part of a legendary Barcelona team. What, should he have walked out at halfway through that and just to go to a different league just to satisfy somebody else's idea of him being a great player?
Yeah.
No, he embraced the moment. He made that. He was part of it.
Right. Let's hang on. When I hear comments like this is where we need to people talk before they use these. Sorry, they use these before they use this, I should say. Right. Let's have a look. So first of all, what do we consider doing well in France to look like? That's the problem. What are we considering that looks like, Hoover? Right? Because if you actually look at Lionel Messi in France, right? Bearing in mind he's 35 years of age, right? Lionel Messi this season has 17 goal contributions in 13 games.
It's a bit shit, isn't it?
I know.
Should retire. What a joke player.
Shocking.
I think if Ronaldo was there, he would have got a lot more than that.
Right. So he's got 17 goal contributions. Is he the second or first top assister in the league? And then last season, in a year where apparently this was his worst ever year, got 20 goal contributions in 26 games. Right? I mean, these are stats that if any other player has this, we go, wow. But with Lionel Messi, he's not doing very well. What do we expect for him to do? I don't know what more he can do.
Yeah, he's an aging player. He's still a genius. Even when the goal scoring stats start dropping off, which they will do, which they have done, he still adds to the team. The assists are still up there. The ability on the ball, the ability to make other players around him better is still there.
Mm-hmm. And in the Champions League, Hoover, he's played 5 games. Right, get this: 5 games, 4 goals, 4 assists. So he's got 8 goal contributions in 5 Champions League games as well.
Wow, that's just not good enough, is it?
He's nearly 36. These are insane numbers. Listen, anyway, it's just frustrating me. I'm going to jump off before I read any other silly comments. Kuva, as always, much love, my man. Thank you very much. I'm going to go and watch Sky Sports and see that we've signed our very own Yao Felix type player.
Can of Felix cat food, maybe. On loan.
Don't. Everyone in the chat, by the way, I ran a poll throughout this show, which was how much profit will Spurs announce for the last 12 months? The options were less than 100, 100 to 150, and 150 million plus. We've had 281 votes. 21% said less than 100 million. 33% said between 100 and 150. And 46% think that our profits will be 150 million plus. We will see. Guys, for the last time, I'm going to put my link to the charity, to the Just Giving page in the chat. Please join me on Friday, 9 p.m. onwards. It's not going to be something that we take seriously. So please don't come with attitude. Please don't come with anything rude. This is purely everything and anything to raise money. Kuva, thank you. Everyone in the chat, thank you. Much love. Please like, please subscribe.
Yeah.
We'll see you all soon.
Big up all in chat. Love the engagement and chat going on. Yeah.
And if I could get one more person, I'm one away from 2,700. One more subscriber. We're creeping up towards 3,000. I'm going to go this time. Kuva, you want to play us out?
Go on then. It's doing the Daigle, isn't it? And as always, Levy out.